There was supposed to be a really cool intro here. It's gonna be fun, great. Y'all are gonna laugh like, oh, I got it. And Scopa said no. So, yeah, this is the intro of the video instead. I don't know. Maybe we'll get those, leaderboards back or something next month. I don't know. Don't get to drop my hint though. That sucks. Yeah.
Fancy intro music, yeah! Woo!
November. It's done. We're done. We finished November. And in this video, we'll go over what I think was finally, for the first time in a while, a good month. And I want to get y'all's opinion, of course. So anytime you see these videos, please know that throughout any part, even if you leave like 10 comments, let me know what you think. I've been reading through the comments a lot more lately, just trying to make sure I communicate with all of you that I can. Let me know your thoughts on November. And what I'm going to do this go around is a little bit different than what we've done before. I am going to go and just use these as a month by month, but in expanding outside just the arc, I'm going to take November as a whole. And I'm going to include the fact that Incursions right here, this thing. Yeah, that one right there. Oh, okay, let's just, you know what? Let's just get straight into it. Can we be real, Scopely? Me and you, face to face? F. That was the worst Incursion of all time. And not just my opinion. Normally, we've got the player base about, I'd say 42 to 46% enjoy an Incursion, depending on which one it is. And that's just based on my polling. Several thousand of y'all have participated in each one of those polls, and it gives me a pretty good idea of what the player base thinks. Well, this one was hands down voted the worst that we've ever had. And, part of them moving into December and not doing Incursions is the feedback and the fact that they did not know that it would be a good player experience. So that leads to, hopefully, 2023 having better versions. Let's just see how that ends up looking. So for right now, Incursions gets a big F, and that's how we started November. And I think if we're going to be honest, if I'm going to say, hey, something was positive, something was negative, well, then I've got to do it honestly. And that means including the Fs. So Incursion was terrible. But when the actual drop happened, and you had this video right here, we talked about patch 48, the Defiant came out, you had 3 officers, you got a free-to-play path to a rare officer, and then if you had saved up enough of the currencies for the Wayun Elite SMS, they ended up adding a leaderboard towards the end based on player feedback that lets you go after Ducat. The officer sourcing this month was greatly improved. Now, is it to the point where I'd be like, yeah, this is a fantastic run? No, but I'll give it a B when it comes to officer sourcing and how they launched it. I thought that was finally semi-decent. It wasn't us just sitting around going as content creators like, hey guys, it's going to be great. These officers are really good. You just can't have them. Hence the crickets. And you're awkwardly sitting here trying to talk about something cool that most people can't get. So that was a good launch. Obviously, the first week you didn't have that, but then you had that here the second week where they combined them, and that helped out. And the Defiant is so tricky for me to really grade, because if it was any other ship, like if it was literally the USS Akira, and it was just a Federation ship as a specialty ship, I would have given it a better grade. But lo and behold, it wasn't. It is what it is. So it gets a B. Now, this is going to be a point that I'm sure so many people are going to sit in my chat and disagree on, and I welcome that disagreement. In fact, literally, everybody's welcome to comment a billion times. But the reason I give the Defiant a B is the Defiant still needs to be better, and I will push that, and I will not stop pushing it until it is. It needs to be better for level 50 plus players, and it needs to be better for level 35 to 39 players, and more accessible, and just a better overall performer. But all of that said, it does its job very well, as we covered in a later video right here in the deep dive. When you actually get it tiered up to your level, it is a very important, part of your game, whether it's the boost that it can provide or in terms of getting better credits. But it is a one-trick pony. I mean, the Defiant's a heck of a lot more of a one-trick pony than Jayla is. It can give you more loot for solo armadas and stuff like that. So it is what it is, but wanted to make a note. Also, got to give a huge positive, in my opinion. This is one of the big things. A for the Armory. The Armory was a great addition to the game. I know we talk about the problems of power creep and things like that, but it was a free-to-play building that you could pay to get up sooner, but an immediate grind, part of a daily. I love that. And then the oopsie chest. And this is going to be a big one for me. Obviously, the treasury banner was terrible. I mean, literally affecting some people's health. And I'm never going to downplay that. And that's one of the reasons that we talked so much, whether it was on the live streams or whether it was, in the official Discord and my Discord, about why that was such a problem. Now, they ended up coming in our State of the Union and talking about how they tried to address it and why there's issues here and there. And we can choose to take those reasonings or not, and that's kind of up to y'all. But what I will say is how they addressed it with the oopsie chest was absolutely fantastic in terms of value for players. In terms of what y'all got, this level of response needed to admit we screwed up mightily, and they did do that. And I have to give credit for that. I think that was one of the best moves they've ever made in terms of comping players for their mistake. And I know a lot of people probably are not going to like that I include that in my why this month is great, but I think it should be, because it encourages them to continue on that path, and the fact that it helps out so many different players. And then the last thing I want to comment on before we jump back into the actual game is the Defiant coming through. We got a deep dive. We'll look at it in just a second, but the 4-year anniversary, easily the best anniversary celebration we've ever had. I still think the first 3 days were painful. They could have handled it better, but at the same time, day 4 was epic, literally, pun intended. And because of that, I think that we've got to give it credit for being what it is, an amazing anniversary event. And I think the fact that so many of y'all watch this video, literally, I'm almost to 20,000 views in less than 72 hours, is insane. That shows how much you appreciate Scopely doing that. So because of that, I'm giving the entire month an A, but let's go a little bit more into the Defiant, because I think this is where it teeter-totters for a lot of people. The Defiant is a one-trick pony. It is literally solo armadas. It doesn't even do the Bajoran grind more efficiently or more effectively. It does look great. I give them credit for that, and I'm still hoping that there's an adjustment made to make it stronger in other uses across the game. And there's my Katinga back there. I got that this month too, which admittedly helps with my happiness. The story missions were pretty good this month, and I think help point towards who the spy is. If y'all haven't figured it out yet, I'm real curious who actually knows who the spy is at the time of this video. I'll have a hint to who the spy is, hopefully next week. Hopefully, like the video if you want to hear Rev's hint on the spy, and I'll tell Scopely, like, look, they literally like the video. They want to hear the spy. So as we go through all these different things, I think the Defiant is going to be a make or break for a lot of people. A lot of people are upset that one of the most iconic, if not the second most iconic ship in Star Trek history is simply a side ship. It is just a support class ship. It is just for armadas, and it looks great. I love having it, but at the same time, I'm never going to go use this in territory. I'm never going to use this in Incursions PvP unless required by some half-brained event they come up with, like they did with the Franklin PvP. Love you guys. I really do. I appreciate you trying something different, but that was just such a bad flop. Okay, I think it's okay to have angst against the Defiant because you wanted it to be more than it is in the game. And hopefully that happens in the future. I think it's also fair to say that the Defiant is really good at what it's designed to do. And because of that, I gave it a B. I think that if you choose to rate it lower, that's completely okay. But I will go ahead and tell you that I think it's only fair to put the Defiant where it needs to be, and that is as one of the most important special ships in the game, because solo armadas are so important to your game, and I love it because it puts control for you back in it. Real quick, we're going to talk about some of the officers. You got Ikatika here, then you've got Pan, who was completely sourceable free to play, which we loved, getting back to that meta. And by the way, really good in base defense. Really good in base defense. And then we had Wei Yun. So the Strike Team Explorer crew is kind of weird for me because I like the crew. I find that they are great as unique pieces in different setups, even if I'm not a huge fan of them in terms of value in the strike teams as a whole. That's another video that's coming out that y'all have been requesting, and it's actually been in the Discord, like, hey, what's the best strike team? Well, I'll have a video on that, but sourcing was good. It was much better than the previous month. It is wild. I never thought I'd hear the day that even free-to-play were begging for regular leaderboards to come back, but we had that day, and I ended up getting gold Ducat from it. But just as the first 3 officers, you had one full unlock, completely guaranteed in Pawn, got semi-close with Ikatika, and depending on how you did in your perspective RNG pulls of Wei Yun, a lot of free-to-play players ended up with Wei Yun. Obviously not guaranteed, but sourcing ended up being much better than the month prior. So because of all these things, when I think about the events launched well, the events ran, the events this month, if you did not pay attention, the income from events this month was pretty high, so that should have been something that hopefully all of you noted. And there were no real added bugs. You still have some of the big bugs out there, The treasury bug was a massive one that they tried to rectify, but you know, you didn't have day one of launch was actually one of the smoothest we've had in 2020, 2022. Good Lord, my years are off. You had a lot that went right this month, and hopefully that continues. And you saw them try to make a conscientious effort to improve player sentiment and make players believe that they really do care. And I think that most of them do. So because of that, I'm looking at this as a whole, and I am, I guess, just officially saying it, A. It's an A. The whole month was an A for me. That doesn't mean there wasn't problems. It's not perfect. That's why it's not an A+. But the biggest problems, a lot of them are problems from old months coming into this month. So I think that this is probably the first month of DS9 that was such a good month that made you go, this was worth it. And hopefully December can match that energy. But right now, November, I have it as an A, but I want to know what you think about it as always, because I take these feedback points and I go back to the dev team and say, look, I thought it was an A. They did it. Here's why. And we'll go over these little details. And we'll talk about it with Eco and Beck and the community managers of the game. So let me know what you think, comment, and give reasons for why. If you think it's a D, tell me why. If you think it's an A, tell me why. I tried to talk to several players in the 20s, 30s, 40s, of course, to get more than just my perspective, but I end up rounding it out with an A, thinking that last month was one of the best months of the year, and can't wait to see what December holds. So, live long and prosper. Stay safe for the Space Cowboys. Deuces, that's me. Catch you on the next one. Be out of here.
An even better outro than the intro. For the Empire and glory to your house.